The following is a conversation with Mary Hibbard Ramirez. Mary is an innovation leader, an expert at delivering stakeholder value, and she has deep experience in global digital transformation. This is the Communicating Value podcast. If you enjoy it, please like and subscribe. As you have questions, ideas, and suggestions, leave them in the comments below. And now, my conversation with Mary Hibbard Ramirez. Mary, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
This is great. So, first question for those of us who don't know you yet, what's your story?
What's my story? Well, Mary Hibbard Ramirez, and I've got over 20 years of HR and technology expertise, working for generally global companies. It's a Fortune Top 10, most recently in the Chicago area, a couple pharmas. Really having expertise in leading global deployments, introducing PMOs, former scholarship athlete in college and a former coach. And I'm so glad I coached because I used those skills to put together some of the highest performing teams that know to have fun every now and then. And if you've been on one of my teams, you know exactly what I mean.
Nice. So what sport were you?
4 years of field hockey and 2 years of softball.
Oh my
back in the
gosh.
day.
That is awesome. Very cool. So, communicating value is hard. True or false?
Oh, that's very true. Very true.
Okay. Well, why is it true?
That's true. Well, communication with anybody is always challenging, but communicating value is particularly challenging in a business sense. One of the reasons is value means different things to different people. My MBA is in finance, and value to a finance person is generally your return is usually what's the increase in sales or what's my increase in my profit margin. Value to HR is what's the employee experience. So one of the things I found is when you're trying to communicate value, you really need to define it first, because I may deliver all the value in the world from my perspective, but if you're my client or customer, you really count. Your definition is more important than mine. And one of the things I did when I was at Baxter and introduced the EPMO is we put together an actual value based on risk and value. And we got buy-in from our clients, the board of directors and our clients in finance. And because we had a story on value, we were actually able to double the budget for capital projects in 1 year. Because our CFO gave us a little bit of money and we went back and said, hey, look, give us a little more. Here's what we can do from a value perspective. So I found that just defining value really helps you when you're trying to deliver it.
Right. You were good stewards of the pool of resources that they had available, and heck, I'd give them to you too.
Well, just having the MBA in finance allowed my team and I to be able to use the language that finance understood, because we all have our own languages, right? I mean, English is our first language, but I speak IT, I speak HR, I speak finance, but I need to be able to translate so you understand what I'm trying to say.
And I also speak teenager.
Oh.
Chill, hang. Those are words for having a meeting. Yeah. Awesome. So I'm kind of curious, Mary, what's most exciting for you right now?
Other than the beautiful Chicago weather we're having today?
Well, that's exciting.
Well, as of the first workday in August, I launched my my new website, clarkmanagementconsultants.com. Go out and take a look. Nice. And it was tons of fun because it was a pretty easy tool to be able to put up the website. There's a lot of drag and drop and some really cool pictures of Chicago bridges, and that was my tagline, bridging HR and technology. But probably the best part about it was it allowed me to really hone in the message of what's the value, there's that word again, do I bring if you were to hire me full time, hire me for an interim role, or hire me for short term. So I could talk about HR technology, I could talk about strategy, I could talk about PMOs, digital strategy, etc. And I could introduce it on LinkedIn, and I got tons of views, like over 200 views now. So it was a good thing to do. I needed to do it.
Wow. Start to finish, how long did it take to get that site up? And
the technology part was like an hour. They actually had people who answered the phone line when I wanted to make sure that I was using, I had the right domain name, I've got my LLC. The hard part was really getting my head around putting together a succinct message of what are the services that I offer. So it was a week, but it wasn't a solid week of 60 hours either.
Nice. Cool. So I saw that you had kind of 6 pillars of value or service, or I don't know if you call them pillars, but tell us about that.
I'll pick one of my favorites, HR technology. So I really like HR technology because as technology has matured, I've noticed that the people in IT who really understand business process and understand HR strategy have really transitioned over to the HR side. I'd been an IT person supporting HR for quite a while, and my most recent role, I was on the HR side, because as applications have moved from on-premise into the cloud, they've been written so that configuration can be done by HR professionals and not so much IT. So IT is really left with understanding integrations, partnering with HR. HR owns the data, and then IT would own any type of initial testing. But a lot of what used to be on the HR side, on the IT side, is now on the HR side. So I've been transitioning as well on that.
Okay, Mary, here's one. So innovation and value focus. So if I brought you in for a day, what would you teach us executives in HR, let's say?
So innovation and value focus. What we really need to focus on is what's the corporate strategy, and how does this particular function, say it is HR, support that strategy, that focus, because that's really where our value should be, and that's where our innovation should be. Now, one of the silver linings of COVID-19, if there are any, is this ability to learn a lot via Zooms like this and other WebExes. And I was on a really interesting one last week around technology transformation. And the notion was that while most companies were able to pivot and do a majority of the work from home, except of course the service industry, the innovation has suffered a bit, because being able to have those water cooler conversations or lob a question at someone who sits close to you has suffered a bit. So the gentleman who was speaking actually proposed, and this, I'm still thinking about it, of identifying a very small team and having them do the appropriate COVID testing and bringing them into a site and then putting a bubble around them, sort of like the MBA, and having that really small team be your innovation team and work on innovation. What do you think about that, Paul? I thought that was thought-provoking anyway.
That is, because, I mean, Zoom is great, but it doesn't involve all your senses. Because you have whiteboards, you have physical objects, your communication is accelerated in a group like that, and you develop this rapid trust-based team dynamic that's way, like probably 10 times more efficient, or in getting from idea to prototype or whatever. So I like that. I do.
And I've seen a lot of teams pivot really well doing their design workshops. That generally they hop on a plane, they fly all over the globe, being able to do those virtually. I've seen the virtual agile teams, where it's so important to have your big wall for your Kanban. I've seen those go virtual and I've seen those go well, but the innovation, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, yeah. So you said the word strategy. So what's your definition of strategy, or what's the definition or the variety you've seen of, the word strategy?
Oh, well, strategy is taking a beating these days, isn't it? Because those of us who last year put together our 3-year strategic plans never planned on 2020 to be the way that it is. But in reading some of the McKinsey and Harvard Business Review, they're still encouraging having that, longer term strategy, but from a short term perspective to continue to, bring in the people who are closest to the line, whatever your line is in your particular industry, and continue to pivot to meet your short term. Put together a couple of different scenarios for midterm. Like, when do you think you will go back and how will that look? Pick the 2 or 3 most probable and then start to work on those so that you're not taken by surprise. And then continue to alter your longer term strategy given what we know. And we're a little smarter every day on exactly what the economy is going to look like and how it's affecting our different businesses. So that's my strategy suggestions.
Right.
So Paul, since COVID-19 has changed so much of what we thought and what we're doing, I was wondering, what are your thoughts about how maybe it's impact this notion of some of the service organizations within a business, like IT, like HR, of their evolution of, order taker to strategic partner? Do you think it's impacted positively, negatively? Just what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the positive thing I think that's happened is the cost of collaboration has gone way down, like a lot. Okay. Combine that with people have more time because you cut out commuting, right? So if you commute 3 hours a day, especially in Chicago, holy cow, that's like a synergistic kind of value bomb. So as a service organization or a service group, you now have a much bigger budget of time to spend and chatting with your stakeholders, your customers, internal customers is a great investment, because that's where you get the problems to solve, the opportunities to capture, the rumors are reduced because now people have answers that are based on fact about whatever's going on, and so I think that's a positive thing. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen that it's really an opportunity for HR to move more towards technology and use technology for the things that used to be done manually, which frees up their people to be those true strategic partners that the business wants, to help them understand, what do they need from a future resourcing perspective? What do they need today? How do you recruit? How, what does diversity, equity, and inclusion really mean for my organization? And most IT organizations pivoted so well. I was just reading an article, Crane's article yesterday, where Baxter Healthcare was able to pivot over a weekend, going from primarily working in the office to 100% working from home. It was outstanding and amazing, and hats off to the CIO, Paul Martin, and his team for that. So I'm really hoping that this will be a bit of a silver lining in this pandemic, and that some of the service organizations are given the opportunity to show how they really can be strategic partners for the business.
That's awesome. Very cool. So we're trying to keep this short form. So any last, words of advice, and then also, how can our people reach you if they want to learn more?
Okay. Well, just words of advice is, so I have children as well. And I know that from both a personal and professional level, communication can always be challenging. So I would just, words of advice are continue to communicate, over-communicate. I've never heard that I've over-communicated, really, unless I'm asking something to be picked up at home. And if you'd like to find out a little bit more about me, my brand new website is www.cultivatingthe clarkmanagementconsultants.com or Mary Ramirez at LinkedIn. And thanks, Paul. This was tons of fun. You're so easy to talk to. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, this is great. And we'll probably have to do it again because I think we had about 10 more topics to talk about. So thank you.
Thank you.